What's up, guys? Horror Man back for another review. So today we're going to take a look at the DC Multiverse Batman Begins Scarecrow. Now this is part of Todd McFarlane's line of DC comic characters, and it's part of an ongoing line of that Nolan universe, just trilogy of figures. So we haven't had this Scarecrow. We actually did get the straitjacket version of him, which was kind of like that nightmare mask, and then there was also a Jokerized version, but this is the first time getting this suited version, which is my favorite look for him. So just taking a look at the packaging here, just pretty much is that standard DC Multiverse packaging with Scarecrow written on here. You do get that red McFarlane Platinum sticker on here, which is an unfortunate sign, which means basically in the US it's a Target exclusive. I'm not exactly sure where it's going to be sold in other outlets. You do have a cool trading card in the back, which does lead into what the back of the box looks like. Really cool original art with just the Scarecrow in his suit with a bunch of the bats and that kind of sepia tone Gotham City that you see in Batman Begins. I do have a QR code for some DC Infinite thing. Not a lot of accessories with this, probably be a pretty quick review, but I do have a bunch of Scarecrow figures, so I will do some comparisons with them as well as some other characters. So let's go ahead and start by getting this out of the box and having a closer look at the head sculpt. Alright, so taking a look at the head sculpt here, for the most part I think he's done a pretty good job with this sculpt. McFarlane tends to do pretty good sculpt wise. Sometimes the paint tends to lack, or they might go a little too far with the sculpting and paint. But I do think they've done a pretty good job with this one. It might be a little busy with some of the stitch marks. Like, there is spots in that Scarecrow mask that aren't stitched up so much, so I think maybe a little bit of less attention to like this part might have helped them. But I do see what they were going for, and it's definitely far better, in my opinion, than the one they released before, which had that kind of maggot, like nightmare scene to the mask. And I mean, it's a cool scene, but I don't think that's what most people would want on their shelves. I think most people would want just a regular version of the mask. But yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job. It's not real easy to capture in these lights, but you can actually see his eyes. But when you have the lights positioned a little bit different, the eyes tend to be a bit more set back. So it does look like a person wearing a mask, and I do like that. I really like the attention to the eye, like his right eye. That's the one that really had a lot of that stitching. Like I said, you could definitely see a lot of that tatteredness to the mask and a lot of those stitching. And yeah, it might be just a little like overdone, just a touch. But again, it looks far better than that last one. Overall, though, I really think they did nail the shape of that mouth and basically the overall look of what this mask looked like in the movie. And it is tough to get it exact because it is a fabric, mask in the movie, of course, so it does tend to change shape in certain scenes and things like that. So it's not always going to look exactly the same. But yeah, I really like the wrinkles on the right side. I just really love how they did that mouth. I would have loved to see a darker stitching around the mouth itself, because that should be more of like a rope rather than the actual potato sack. So yeah, like adding a little bit of darkness to that mouth and maybe a little bit of darkness around the eyes, I think it would have really helped with this. Not heavy-handed with the paint, just a little dry brush I think would have went a long way. But you can definitely see that rope or that noose tied around his neck, and I think the rope looks really good. I like that it's kind of hanging over to the side, not going straight down, so I think that looks pretty cool. But yeah, overall I like the details. And here's a quick shot of the back of the mask, and again, you can definitely see a lot of that stitching, some different details in the mask. I really like the way they did like the actual texture, because it is a sack mask. You can see that potato sack kind of texture, and then you can see part of that noose for the back going around the mask. Looking at some of the other details in the figure, really looking at the top part of the torso, so around his shoulders, you could really see that like dirt or like dinginess to his jacket, which I really like. One thing that'd be really nice is when you sit on your shelf and it gets dusty, you'll never know. But no, I really do like that. It's not just a basic suit. Now, for people that are going to be using this for a suited body, not necessarily a Scarecrow figure, that might pose a problem. But since this is a pretty rare figure, I don't think a lot of people will be doing that anyway. But yeah, you can see like the bottom part of the rope, and I do like that there's like, you know, a little bit of detail on that. It's not just like a cheap looking plastic. So again, there is some good details in the mask and in that rope. But yeah, I really do like the way that looks. It just looks like dingy. It looks really cool. Looking at some more of the details in the body here, just your basic suit. You do have the tie showing a little bit here. Got a couple buttons. One is left unbuttoned. Couple pockets in the front. I've seen some people doing reviews on this saying that he was kind of squished in a box, made him look kind of big. I don't really have that with mine, but you could see there isn't a whole lot underneath of the jacket in terms of like an actual sculpted torso. So it is a little thin, so I could see where that could happen. But it is a soft material, and I imagine it'll soften up and change shape as you have him out of that box. But yeah, pretty basic details, nothing real special with this suit other than really the top with that different kind of like dinginess to the shoulders. And then finally down to the pants, which is a really interesting choice, to be honest. So the pants definitely come off as those like kind of corduroy pants because there's like a texture to the pants themselves, and they definitely are bell bottoms. I mean, there is no question about it. These are bell bottoms. I see what they're going for with allowing more foot articulation, but yeah, if you look at the size of the pants and then look at the bottom, they just really come off as like bell bottoms. So I'm not sure why they went so extreme with the pants, but aside from that, they look fine. Just basic dress shoes as well. He does have a really ugly articulation point in the toe because of that articulation. I guess it kind of goes in with the style of the shoe, but yeah, kind of weird. But yeah, for the most part, pretty basic pants. You do have a trim, like a line on the side or a seam. But yeah, they definitely have a texture to them. They kind of come off as like corduroy bell bottoms. And then on the bottom of the feet, of course, you do have two peg holes, so you can use it for the included stand, which you always get these stands with a McFarlane figure. You really don't need the stand, but it does help support them, so no worries there. So not an insanely detailed figure, but it definitely gets the job done as a Batman Begins Scarecrow, and overall I think it looks pretty good. One thing we haven't really got a whole lot of is like a super articulated Batman Begins Scarecrow. We did get a pretty good one from Mafex. That's probably the most articulation we've seen. But this one definitely has some pretty good articulation. Now in the head, you can spin it all the way around. Not going to get a whole lot of movement because of that sack mask, but you can tilt a little bit. I do wish we can get more pivot out of here. Really needed that with this head sculpt. You can get a decent amount, but definitely wish it was a little bit better. Arms can go all the way out in that T pose. Can go all the way down as well. Huge pins on here. Can move at the shoulder a little bit. Can move here at the bicep. Do have that double hinge articulation. Not very pretty, but it is there. In terms of wrists, can definitely move it, but that sleeve is a little bit of a pain. Not real good movement on that wrist, unfortunately. You can definitely turn the waist pretty easily. A little bit of a crunch, a little bit of back. Not a whole lot. A little bit of angle here. Got them big ratchets for the legs here. Pretty good split. Pretty good kick. I'm going to kick Batman here. Leg goes out like this. double hinged knee is a little tight. Again, not real pretty. Swivel a little bit at the leg, not much. Foot can go down a little bit. It goes a little bit up. I don't know, these pants seem to be worthless as bell bottoms if they don't work. A little bit of a pivot. Biggest piece is that toe tip. Tip of the toes definitely got the most articulation, so I don't know, it's okay articulation, not the best for McFarlane. I feel like the bell-bottom pants seem to be pointless since they don't really get much more feet articulation. So, you know, it's okay. It's definitely nice to have the, you know, double elbows and the knees, but do I really need it with this figure? Kind of wish I had more, you know, neck movement and better movement in those wrists. So unfortunately you don't get any accessories with this figure. You do get a couple interchangeable hands, and that's going to be it. So to start, you do get a couple gripping hands, which are on him inside the box. Definitely got some issues with the molding. I see a line right in his right fist. The hands you get are, you get one relaxed hand, and that's going to be for his left hand. You can probably grip on to some things as well. This hand looks better than the ones on him. And then you only get one regular closed fist hand. So I don't know, it's interesting sort of hands. You basically get open ones and only one fist and only one relaxed hand, so nothing really matches real well. The hand on this guy was pretty hard to get off. It's a huge peg hole and a really thick peg, so sorry I couldn't show that on camera. I will try to snap this hand in on camera. Oh boy. Yeah, this is definitely tough to get on. Alright, there we go. Alright, and there he is with his relaxed hand, and I do think that looks pretty cool. Here is the Scarecrow card that you get inside the packaging, and again, it's pretty much the same exact image as the back. It just has Scarecrow written at the bottom. And then over to the back, you get a little bit of a data file with that same Scarecrow image at the top. And even though you don't get any Scarecrow accessories, I was able to kind of simulate the toxin that he sprays with just a little ball of cotton. So I've done that with a couple Scarecrow figures, and it always works pretty good, especially with toy photography. It's a shame you don't get any accessories with this figure because the right hand really looks like it's set up to hold his briefcase, and even if it didn't open, it was just plain unpainted, I think it would have been really nice addition for this figure. But if it did open, it could hold like the mask itself, and maybe they can give us the unmasked Cillian Murphy or Dr. Crane head sculpt, but we really don't get any of that here. For the first comparison, this is going to be an in-box comparison. I actually did pick up that Demon Batman also, which I think he looks really cool. And you notice he has that gold label collection, so two figures from Batman Begins. One's got a platinum red sticker, one's got a gold label. The only one that didn't have a sticker, as far as I remember, was the regular Batman Begins, but unfortunately you're not going to see a review of that from me because I did not pick it up. Wasn't a huge fan of that figure. But I do like these two, so I wanted to show you a little comparison of how they look next to each other. For the next comparison, here he is with a couple other McFarlane toys. So you have the Dark Knight Batman, and that one's got that plastic cape. That's the first release of that figure. And then you have him with Lucius Fox, which is played by Morgan Freeman. And for the most part, I think they scale pretty good. I do think Scarecrow should be shorter. And for your last McFarlane comparison, here he is with the bank robber Joker, and it's also from the Dark Knight. And then you have the Catwoman / Selena Kyle, and she's from the Dark Knight Rises. For your first Scarecrow comparison, here he is next to the Mafex version of Scarecrow, which is also based on Batman Begins, and you see he's in that suit. And I do think this is a very good version of that character. There's also an unmasked head sculpt of Cillian Murphy that comes with that, which is, I believe, the only version made with that head sculpt, so very cool. And then you have the Mattel Movie Masters version, which is that also Batman Begins, and this is a pretty old figure. I've always loved the mask on this. I always thought the shape was done really good, but you can see he's in that straight jacket. Now Mattel did make a version that's in this type of suit. It's actually underneath of this. If you spread this apart enough, you can see there's like a shirt But yeah, there is one with a sport jacket. There is no straight jacket version of the Mafex that they ever did. But overall, I think they all look really cool next to each other. I'm happy with all of them because they all are a little bit different scale. For the next Scarecrow comparison, here he is with the Batman the Animated Series Scarecrow, and then you have the Arkham Asylum Scarecrow based on those video games. And you can see these guys are definitely shorter. They are more in that 6-inch scale, where this Scarecrow definitely seems more 7-inch scale. For your last Scarecrow comparison, here he is with the Hot Toys Scarecrow, which is also based on Batman Begins. And you can take this straight jacket off to make him look more like this McFarlane one, but you can obviously see this is in 12-inch scale, so much bigger. But it is cool to see these next to each other. Here he is with some other crazy characters that wear the sack mask. So you got the Friday the 13th Part 2 Jason Voorhees. You got the Devil's Rejects Tiny. You have the Friday the 13th Jason Voorhees from the 2009 remake. And then you have the Chainsaw Ganado from the Resident Evil 4 original game. And all of those figures are made by NECA Toys, most of which are in 7-inch scale, and I do think Scarecrow fits in pretty good with these guys. And then for the last comparison, here he is with the Batman Begins Batman and the Dark Knight Joker, both made by NECA Toys. Now the Joker does have a custom freak paint job on there, it definitely makes it pop. For the most part, I think they scale pretty good. I do think the Joker looks a little too short next to Scarecrow, and even Batman's a little short next to him. So yeah, the Scarecrow is just a little tall. Alright, so that's my review of the McFarlane Toys Scarecrow based on Batman Begins. And of course, this is specifically that suited body. And for the most part, I really do like this figure. I honestly don't have a whole lot to complain. It's a pretty basic character for the most part. It's just a guy in a suit, but that mask really does separate him from just being a regular character. And I do think for the most part, I've done a pretty good job replicating that Scarecrow mask. My only real gripe about this figure is that they just don't give us like an ultimate, like, you know, something with extra accessories. Like, I love this character. It's one of my favorite versions of the Scarecrow. I really wish I could get, you know, something with a bit more accessories. So, you know, an unmasked head sculpt of Dr. Crane, you know, a briefcase maybe, and maybe like you could put like just, you know, a sack mask in the briefcase. I think those accessories would have been perfect. Or even hand, like a hand with an effect to kind of simulate the fear toxin. I think that would have went a long way as well. So they gave us like the right hands for this. They just didn't give us much for accessories, which is a bit disappointing, and it still kind of puts that Mafex Scarecrow just a little bit above this one. Overall, I definitely recommend picking this one up if you could find it. Like I said, check Target, and hopefully you could find it. I would definitely recommend this one for any Scarecrow fan, especially if you are a Nolan, you know, trilogy fan. This definitely fits in really nicely with McFarlane, and it actually fits in really nice with that NECA collection. So no matter what you collect, if you like that 7-inch scale, this is going to really look good in your collection. So thanks for watching my review. If you liked the video, leave a like. If you have a comment or question, leave it in the comments section below. And until next time, guys.